Hello everyone and welcome, Valiath here. This is a follow-up video to my original 10.2 Season 3 healing guide, but in this one, we'll be more specifically diving deeper into Holy Paladin priority and rotations for healing in dungeons. In this video, we will be discussing the most popular talent build currently played and the interactions of all the talent choices. We'll be going over all of our healing abilities and when it's appropriate to use them, and we'll also be discussing our active and direct healing CDs. If you also want a more comprehensive class guide for Holy Paladins in Season 3, check out my M+ and Raid guide. You can find links in the description of this video. There's some very good information to be found in those videos that I won't be going over in this one. Healers do not have a set rotation like DPS classes generally do. Our playstyle is one that is centered in our ability as the pilot of the class to make split-second decisions based on the information we gather in the moment. That means that there is no do this then that then do this to heal. There's no such thing as a rigid chain of events when it comes to healing your group. There is one caveat to this though, and that is when you play a healer that has a very specific and proper way to execute their ramp to maximize their healing potential, like Disc Priests or Resto Druids, or if there are specific combos that require certain steps like Holy Paladins and Preservation Evokers. This video is focused more so on how to use your toolkit to heal your group from a general standpoint, which if you know how to do that, it will allow you to execute ramps and combos from a much stronger foundation as a healer. We want to get away from moments of panic healing, to instead be in a position where you can predict what will happen, so you can properly prepare for it. There's nothing worse for a healer than to have a group take enormous amounts of damage and just stand there seeing everyone perish and not knowing what happened and what you could have done to prevent it. You have chosen the healing role, and with that comes a much greater personal burden than any other role in the game. It is up to us to know our class, the dungeon, and be prepared for the inevitable mistakes of yourself and the others in your party. But let's get into the current state of Holy Paladin talent builds. At the start of the season, there was one clear talent tree that was popular, and that was the one where we focused heavily into Flash of Light given how powerful this spell is. But to do so, we removed the mana-intensive Tears Deliverance ability, in favor of more mana efficiency. After about 10 weeks into the season now, this has shifted to once again include Tears Deliverance into our gameplay. I think the main reason for this is we now have substantially more gear and our abilities hit much harder. Running this build does drain your mana much faster though, which is one of the reasons it was not used at the onset of the season. But with the current eye levels and more familiarity with the dungeons, picking up this build is recommended at this point. As a side note, always bring mana food to any dungeon and take every opportunity you can to top yourself up, provided it doesn't greatly impede on the run itself. I buy delicious dragon spittle from the auction house, which regenerates a lot more mana than the standard mana food from the inn. Highly recommend you pick that up in bulk. This build puts a great deal of focus on us generating holy power, and then either spending it on damage abilities or for healing. We want to make sure we get as many awakening procs as possible, so we can maximize our wings uptime. The awakening talent is at the center of this build, and for each holy power spender you use, it provides us with 1 stack of awakening. Once you hit 12 stacks, use your judgment ability and you'll get a proc of wings that lasts for 12 seconds. This does mean we want to constantly generate holy power and then use that for damage or healing whenever appropriate. This does mean we're still going to find ourselves in melee range quite a bit to generate holy power, but also to provide DPS support to the extent we can and make at least some use of our mastery. The beauty of this build though is that we can also stay out in range and very effectively heal our party, which is a level of flexibility we didn't have until this season. Since holy power building is a focus of this build, it means we'll also be getting Blessing of Dawn stacks quickly and frequently. These stacks will boost all your holy power spenders by quite a lot, and can make even our relatively weak Word of Glory a very powerful single target heal, or make our Shield of the Righteous hit even harder. We still use Flash of Light liberally, due to its mana efficiency and strength. In this build, it also helps generate holy power because we pick up the Tower of Radiance talent, which then makes Flash of Light feed into our awakening stacks as well. There's some very good synergy in this build between our builders and spenders, which all Holy Paladins should spend some time understanding. Tears Deliverance and Hand of Divinity is an added combo with this build, which can be very helpful for moments where there's a lot of dots or pulsating damage going out. This is particularly good during bursting weeks, as it can help you gain that extra second or so to get one of your cast off to save your group. Not only is the HOT itself helpful, but everyone that has it receives 15% more healing from all your healing spells, making it an incredibly useful CD you can use to prepare for significant incoming damage. Tears and Hand Divinity should always be used concurrently and should be used on cooldown. Chances are that your tank will be chain pulling enemies to a certain extent, and having this up on your party as much as possible is to everyone's benefit. But let's go back to basics for a moment and discuss our bread and butter healing abilities. These are the ones that make up the core of your kit, and knowing how and when to use them will lay the foundation to your success as a Holy Paladin. Let's get some of the quick ones out of the way first. Always make sure you are standing in your own consecration, and always make sure you put it down on large enemy groups. This does a lot of damage to enemies, but it also makes your Shield of the Righteous and Word of Glory do more damage than healing while you stand inside of it, thanks to the talent Strength of Conviction. Also, any of your party members that stand in your consecration will receive a small heal over time thanks to the Golden Path talent. Make sure you put your Beacon of Light and Beacon of Faith on squishier DPS targets in your group. Beacon of Virtue is not generally something you should run, as it's very mana intensive, and if you play correctly, you should have no problem with AoE healing. I have a very useful macro I put in the description of this video, which allows you to cast both of your beacons but only take up one of your action bar slots. Lastly, always make sure you have Devotion Aura active, to provide the group the 3% damage reduction it provides. But now, let's get into the meat of things, and let's start with Holy Shock, which is the cornerstone of the entire Holy Paladin identity. This spell is involved with basically every aspect of our gameplay, and is the button you should be pressing the most. Remember, I will be discussing this from primarily a healing standpoint in this video. Holy Shock is also one of our primary DPS buttons, and I'll be making another video outlining how we as Holy Paladins can maximize our DPS in keys as well. Stay tuned for that. Holy Shock does direct healing to targets and leaves a glimmer of light on them. Any future Holy Shocks used will also heal the people that have glimmers on them as well. This is one of the main foundational AoE healing capabilities we have. Glimmer placement is at the core of our playstyle, and properly doing this is the most important thing you need to learn. This is made even more important in Season 3 considering our tier set is deeply intertwined with how we manage our glimmers. We should not constantly have our entire party with glimmers on them. Why, you might ask? Well, it's because of this talent, Light's Protection. This states that glimmers provide up to 10% damage reduction, split evenly amongst everyone that has a glimmer on them. So what this means is if you start a pull and you put a singular glimmer on the tank, which is something you should always do, he now goes into combat with 10% damage reduction. This is super helpful to the tank, who will need some time to build up their own active mitigation. Now let's try that scenario again, but you have glimmers on everyone in your party. That means that the 10% damage reduction from glimmers is now spread evenly across 5 players, meaning your tank is entering combat with only 2% added damage reduction. This is a huge difference and puts more stress on the tank and on you as the healer to make sure they are afforded as much wiggle room as possible to get their own active mitigation up and running. Try to be deliberate with your Holy Shocks and glimmers. We now also have to consider when our glimmers expire or are removed. This will also trigger our tier set bonus for healing. This is where proper use of Daybreak comes in, as it removes all of your active glimmers and will push out a ton of healing when it does so. Keep in mind though, doing this removes the damage reduction glimmers provide to your party as well, and you're basically resetting your healing foundation. This is now also where Divine Toll comes into play, as if you cast that on your party, you cast 5 Holy Shocks at the same time, which instantly puts out glimmers on top of everyone in your party, and you're back to a solid healing foundation again. There are 3 ways of executing the combo of Divine Toll and Daybreak. One that is healing focused, one that is more AoE DPS focused, and one that is single target DPS focused. The healing focused order is to Daybreak first to remove your existing glimmers, which provide AoE healing to the group, but it also triggers the Rising Sunlight talent to get you all those extra Holy Shocks. You then cast Divine Toll on your party, which does a lot of AoE healing by itself, but also puts glimmers out on everyone. You now have a scenario where you have had 2 large rounds of AoE healing pushed out, your entire party has glimmers for damage reduction, and you are armed with tons of Holy Shocks so you can cast on your party members to reverberate even more AoE healing thanks to our tier set. The AoE DPS version is exactly like the healing one, other than instead of using Divine Toll on your party, you use it offensively and cast it on a larger group of enemies. This puts Glimmers on them instead, and you can now unleash all of those extra Holy Shocks onto your enemies, and the damage will instead be reverberated thanks to our tier set. The single target DPS way is to do it in reverse, meaning you Divine Toll first for direct healing and also refreshing whatever Glimmers you had out already, and you then hit Daybreak to remove all of those Glimmers to do AoE healing. But as you already guessed, I now have no Glimmers out of my party at all at this point. Well, that's kinda exactly what I was trying to do here. Do just enough healing as needed, but also have all of those extra Holy Shocks available so I can use them for damage instead. Doing it in this order sets you up for a very nice burst window of single target damage. This can be useful on, say, the servants on the third boss in Wakef's Manor, or the ghost ladies from the first boss of Blackrock Hold. All of those extra Holy Shocks in your arsenal, and you can very easily solo one of them. Beware though, you are very likely to do a lot of overhealing if you use Daybreak and Divine Toll in this situation, unless you have a need to healing before you enter your single target DPS cycle. If for some reason someone does take damage after this, you can choose to use those Holy Shocks for single target healing if needed, or you can use any of the other spells you have available to top them off. Chances are you have 1 or 2 Dawn stacks for an empowered Word of Glory, and you'll always have the powerful and efficient Flash of Light available. Let's talk about Blessing of Dawn and how to manage it. I highly recommend that you either create a weak aura to track this or pick one up that's already made. I myself am not very good with weak auras, but I did create one that shows you when you have the buff, its remaining duration, and the stack count. You can find that in the description of this video. So what does Blessing of Dawn do and how do I get it? Well, Blessing of Dawn makes your next Holy Power spender do 20% more healing, and this effect stacks. Firstly, you'll need to be talented into Of Dusk of Dawn, which states that after you've cast 3 Holy Power generating abilities, you gain Blessing of Dawn. During your Daybreak ramp, you can very quickly get stacks of Blessing of Dawn, so remember to use it for a boosted Word of Glory or for damage with Shield of the Righteous. Daybreak is a fantastic ability, but the sheer speed you can push out Holy Shocks and generate Holy Power is ridiculous. This means you might find yourself overcapping on Holy Power, which is okay to do if you ultimately use the spender in an efficient way. Keep this in mind when you know there's a substantial amount of damage going out, and you can line up your Divine Toll and Daybreak combo as well as your Blessing of Dawn triggers. If you can land all of that perfectly, you can unleash an insane amount of healing to your group in a very short period of time. Now let's talk about Flash of Light in a bit more detail and how the interactions of our talent choices makes this a spell we want to cast frequently. First up, this spell has a cast time, which is reduced by our haste. At 35% haste, which is the soft cap we should all aim to reach, Flash of Light takes about 1.2 seconds to cast. A number of our talent choices in the build I'm presenting in this video help make this spell more powerful. Divine Revelations makes Flash of Light 20% stronger if used with an infusion of light proc. Tower of Radiance makes it generate 1 Holy Power, which helps us get to Awakening stacks faster. Inflorescence of the Sunwell makes Flash of Light cost 30% less mana, and Boundless Salvation makes Flash of Light extend the Tyr's Deliverance hot by 4 seconds. Now there are some choices you can make to the build in this video that will even further boost Flash of Light. You can pick up Moment of Compassion instead of Resplendent Light, which makes your Flash of Light heal for 15% more if used on a target with your beacon. The reason I don't run this is that my beacon target already receives extra healing from practically everything else I do. Having my Holy Light do splash healing to me is a much better use of a talent point. You could also pick up Awestruck instead of Holy Infusion, which makes the critical heals of your Holy Shock, Holy Light and Flash of Light do 20% more healing. I choose to use Holy Infusion, as Crusader Strike is used a lot in this build, and having it generate 1 additional Holy Power gets me to max Awakening stacks faster, meaning I can be in Wings form more often. Flash of Light should be your infill healing spell you cast when you don't have Holy Shock available. It does pack quite a punch from a healing standpoint, especially if you use it with Infusion of Light procs, and is a great single target healing spell. You should always aim to use Flash of Light with Infusion of Light procs. Due to the mana efficiency of Flash of Light, you're going to want to use this frequently as your general healing spell to top people off when there's low to moderate damage going out. Holy Shock should of course be used to reverberate out healing, but always keep Flash of Light front and center in your mind as a spell to use. Next up is Holy Light, which is also quite a useful spell for us. It is not a spell that you would use that often, but it has its moments where it can be very good. Since we are running Tears Deliverance and Boundless Salvation, Holy Light is primarily used to extend the hot by 6 seconds for each cast. Thanks to Hand of Divinity, you're able to push out 2 of these very fast, which maxes out the hot very quickly. Don't discount its healing potential either. Thanks to Resplendent Light, Holy Light does splash healing to your group, which can be very effective for topping a group up. The Iridicron boss in Galakron's Fall is made completely irrelevant from a healing standpoint, thanks to Resplendent Light and Hand of Divinity. I made a short of how to execute this, check out the link in the description. In summary, if you use Holy Light on Chromie, who takes a significant amount of increased healing as part of the boss fight, Resplendent Light will splash out a ton of healing on your group. When I say a ton, I mean that each Holy Light cast on Chromie will fully heal your entire group. Another benefit of the spell is thanks to the talent Divine Revelations, which states that each cast of Holy Light replenishes 0.5% of your maximum mana. If you find yourself low on mana with low to moderate damage going out, cast some Holy Lights to top your party members up, which helps you stay in the fight longer. Holy Prism is a very potent and useful AoE heal or AoE damage ability that is on a 20-second CD. We should try to use this whenever available for either healing or damage. This one requires a macro in order for you to be able to control if you want it as healing or damage. I put one in the description of this video. Targeting a friendly player with this spell does single target healing, but it also sends out 5 beams dealing damage to 5 enemies. If you instead target this at an enemy, it will do single target damage, but it'll send back 5 healing beams to the group. Lastly is our Lay on Hands, which is the quintessential oh shit button in our arsenal. This is on a very long cooldown, but when used, it fully heals a party member back up to full. This is an emergency heal that should only be used as such. That is it for this in-depth healing guide. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, in my previous guide I go over practically every spell in our toolkit, and I highly encourage you to check it out. I hope you enjoyed watching, and if you did, please hit that like button, comment below, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.